All right. Today on the show, we have Tim Bumstead. He is a realtor. He's been selling houses for the past couple of years, but he's also the owner of the Pool Professors for the past couple of years as well. Welcome to the show, Tim. Excited to have you here. Yeah. Let's take a look.
Yeah, for sure. I honestly wanted to say that I appreciate you taking an interest in all of the stuff that I've been involved in for the last couple of years. So, yeah, anything that I can sort of share. I have been sort of reluctant, honestly, over the last several years, and it's been something that I've been meaning to do, is get myself online and do more for my business as far as social media goes. So this is a really good opportunity, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, well, this is what this podcast is exactly about, is just small business, real estate, and producing content at the same time. So here we can establish trust with our clients by educating them about what's going on, what we're about, what our values are, all that kind of stuff. Just do me a favor, keep that mic just within like a fist of your face there. Yeah, there we are. Yeah. But yeah, well, let's start just a little bit about yourself, Tim.
Sure. You want the whole story?
Give us give us a bit of the background of how you got into real estate, and then we can kind of get into the pool business as well.
So, and I'll try not to make it too long-winded, but essentially I was having a really hard time figuring out exactly what I wanted to do, even going as far back as like high school and university. Like everybody else had, like, at least in my friend group, had a job that they had considered like a professional, like either a nurse or a doctor or a police officer or something like concrete, you know what I mean? So that you could actually like pursue that and educate yourself about that. And I was sort of open. I didn't really have an understanding of what I wanted to do. So I tried a few different things. I was a financial advisor for a bit. And I first started in the pool industry, just working as a landscaper while I was in university in the summers, right? So that kind of like, that work really excited me, even though it was really hard labor. And there was a lot of days where like I didn't really like the job. It made me like, at the end of the week, I felt like I'd moved around a lot and I was active. I was out in the sun. So I knew I liked being outside. And then, being in like sort of a desk job at the bank, I wasn't really happy, like being stationary. I'm very like I have to be moving. So that was something that I needed to find a career where I was moving and also talking to people. I like to chat, as everybody around me knows. This is very, I can be annoying, I think. But so I started thinking about real estate as a career, and I went into the process of getting my license while I was at the bank, and then COVID hit, and that sort of like gave everybody a new look on when and how they were going to be doing their long-term careers. I think a lot of people changed industries, and
right.
So that was.
So were you one of the agents that kind of got in before COVID, or this or just right during?
I got my license. I think in it was December 2020. Right?
Oh wow!
So if you familiar with the history of the market at that particular time, it was like really good for about a year, and then by the time I actually got into the meat and potatoes of it, I guess, I think I did my first open house, and everybody was warning me, hey, it's going to be busy. Like, this house is like, it's a nice house. There are going to be people lining up to kind of get in it. If you're feeling overwhelmed, here's what to do, and people in my office giving me tips. And then it was a ghost town. And no one showed up. And that was like sort of the first real like signs to the people that have been around for a long time. Oh, something's happening.
Something's changing.
Something's changing, right? So it was like, for me, having no experience at that point, I'm like, okay, well, I really had to pick up on the signs. Like, why is this changing? And over the next 6 months, everyone freaked out.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it went from like the best market that you could ask for as a real estate agent. You put a sign up and you sneeze and it's sold.
Yeah.
Right. There's not a whole, there's work to be done, right? And learning. And a lot of people that entered the industry while things were good didn't really understand how much work is involved.
Yeah. Things were moving so fast at that time. Like we had agents that were like, it was almost regimented as like Tuesday's a shoot, Thursday listing goes up, Friday accept offers, Monday they have an offer that's accepted, and then they repeat the process the next week. But and then you had all these agents who were like, hey, this seems like a great way to make some money.
Right.
Or people who weren't agents got their licenses and maybe had a not the right idea of what the market is or what the industry actually is. And I think a lot of people came out disappointed. But how, after that first open house, like what was your reaction to that? Were you just like ghost towning? Were you sweating? I mean, like what was the?
Again, I didn't have any context. Like coming out of like the licensing part of getting like getting licensed, and the schooling doesn't have much to do with actually doing your job as an agent. It's more so like how to like not get in trouble. With the regulatory bodies and, you know, like keeping things professional. But then the actual like acts of filling out like paperwork and doing like, you know, lead generation and doing open houses and the physical activity that is being a real estate agent or being involved in real estate. It doesn't really prepare you for that. So at least like I knew I was going to have some learning to do, but then also learning while everything is changing. Right. And the people that have been around for 30 years are going, I don't know. Yeah. I really don't.
No help given.
Right. So it's kind of everybody is adjusting in the experienced agents. So that actually I found that was like kind of relieving because I didn't feel so like I was a fish out of water, but everybody else was as well. So it was kind of like an even playing field, if that makes sense.
So what did you learn through that then? Like, cause you're kind of coming into it kind of green and like you say, you're like, even your mentors are really kind of like, this is a market we've never seen before.
Yeah.
What did you learn from all that?
But like, honestly, like my mentors noticing a change, and credit to them, because like, I think a lot of people didn't realize there was a change happening until like weeks after it had happened. But like the moment that something had flipped, it was like a light switch. They were on it and they said like, you need to like basically figure out like what the next steps are going to be for your business, your clients, that if you have any clients that are like going to be selling their house, like you have to kind of like work like almost like a week to week, like work with the week to week changes that are happening.
Right.
And that honestly has been, I think, the moral of the story for the like ever since then, right? And I recognize like small little fluctuations, like listing a house like 1 week versus the next week makes a huge difference. And people, I don't think, at least people selling their homes may not understand that like listing your house at the beginning of April versus listing your house at the beginning of June, there's a huge difference, and it's only a few weeks apart, right?
Right.
But there's a massive difference, and even like listing your house in February is like different than listing your house in April, right? So that's something that I picked up on very early because of that random change that happened the moment that I jumped 2 feet in the industry. I also think that there's a bit of who's worth their salt in the industry. Like a lot of people entered the industry when it was like very attractive. And then a lot of people are now leaving the industry because they had a rough year and they have to go find something else to do.
It's not actually the worst thing, I think, for the industry as a whole. Cause like when we were discovering, like we were crazy busy during COVID, because I think a lot of people, especially in the rural markets, realized that, people can only now look at real estate virtually. So we need to have digital assets to be able to show people. Like Matterport, for example, took off and went crazy. But because there's so many different personalities in the industry, and a lot of people ranging from, you got veterans here who have been in the industry for like 30 plus years. They know every deal inside and out, how everything works, every little bit of zoning, all of that, to the people who just jumped on and are like, hey, this could be a quick payday. And I think it's a lot of those folks that really kind of watered down the quality of the industry as a whole. Quality is huge. A lot of people leaving, it's actually not the worst thing in the world. And it kind of, the chaff will rise out, or was it the chaff that we want? The wheat, keep the wheat. The wheat will separate from the chaff.
That's very rural of you. Yes.
My rural metaphors, No,
but honestly,
grew up on a farm.
That's a
could
good
you
question
tell?
for you too. Is like, you're owning a company during a change, like it's a pivotal change, and honestly, it's something that we'll always look back on. Is like, everyone is going to remember what like March 2020 was like. Yeah. Right. So. For you and your business, did you notice a change right away, or did it take you a little bit to understand like we are going to have to completely reinvent? So what we're doing?
It was kind of crazy because like during COVID, COVID started and everybody's freaking out, and we're like, okay, we're going to shut down for 2 weeks and everything's fine. We would nobody knew. And then they came out with the list. They said, this is going to keep going, but here's the list of essential businesses. So real estate was on the essential list, and then they extended it to service providers for those businesses.
The real estate adjacent.
Yes. So we were a essential service service provider. So we stayed in business. We kept shooting, and like I say, things kind of took off for us during COVID. So previously, we had noticed like the fluctuation of the market throughout the year, because we always find that we kind of follow the school season for the most part.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So winter is very dead usually. Yeah. Spring market, everything takes off and goes crazy, slows down over the summer. People are on vacation, everything, and then school during when kids go back to school, things pick up again. So we kind of have that natural fluctuation, but I don't. There's too many factors I think that go into the real estate and the economy that really dictate where it goes.
So many variables.
So it's like it's hard to tell where it's going, but even to get that data of like, oh, this is what we can expect is going to happen is hard, because last year the spring market didn't really start until May.
Yes.
Where this year it kind of started in March.
Yes.
So like this year we're like, okay, we got a bit of time to like whatever. And then it just came in like a freight train. Yeah. And then the year before we're sweating because like April, nothing's happening. And then May we finally took off. So lots of fun in real estate.
It's not consistent, right? And no. Honestly, well, like you just said, there's like some cyclical stuff that you should expect.
Yeah.
And that's, learning the market, and it's fairly similar across different, like you mostly practice in like Northumberland and out here, and I'm in Durham region, right? And like you see the same cyclical stuff, maybe to a different extent, but it all follows the same sort of trends and patterns. And I've been very interested to see how like external stuff, like, everyone loves to talk about interest rates, how that affects when the timing is going to be. And I think this year specifically is different from last year because people are expecting things to change in a good way, right? Where last year it was expecting things to change in a bad way. So they're holding on and they don't feel safe enough to move until everyone else feels safe. It's a herd mentality.
Right.
And the same thing is happening this year where everyone is expecting the rates to come down. And when rates come down, things just go up in price. That's just how it works. So now with the expectation that things are going to go up, people are jumping the gun. They're like, okay, we got to get ready in March. We have to get, like, people have been ready and kind of asking and talking about it. And I've heard other agents in my office and other offices saying like, this is like, it's busy, it's hot right now. And I've been hearing that since February. Which, I've honestly, one of the things that I was told right away when I got my license is the spring market in Southern Ontario starts in February, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, one thing we've noticed so far this year is that a lot of listings are coming up.
Yes.
So a lot of listings, but a lot of things are sitting. I don't know if that's kind of similar in Durham right now, but we have a lot of listings. The prices are still high. The interest rates have leveled out, which is good, but there's still certain demographics that are really kind of static, right? So I think a lot for like first time home buyers, like, man, if you buy anything that's like $500,000 under, you got to throw another 100, 200K into it just to get it livable. And even, so there's not a whole lot in that range. Yeah. I mean, the federal government has come out with some new, I don't know what you call them.
Changes.
Anything
changing.
Which is supposed to help first-time home buyers, but I don't see if it's going to work. I don't know what you think about that.
I had some thoughts about it even while driving here.
Well, let's lay it out for our audience first. So the Trudeau government has said for first-time home buyers, they can now amortize over 30 years, but it has to be a new build. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah. And there's a couple of different like nuances I'm not even quite familiar yet with, but there's supposed to be sort of like blanket stuff that's making it easier for people to enter the market. Yeah, you can borrow now up to $60,000 from your RRSPs, right? It's all stuff that is kind of like surface level. It should have been done already, right? For people like, we have an issue. Right?
Well, the problem is the prices are so high. It's like even great 30-year amortization, wonderful, but if you don't have the $80,000+ you need for a down payment, then you're SOL, right?
So like qualifying is I think a huge hurdle, and depending on your situation, if you have a stable job and you've been working for a while as a first-time home buyer, you may have that $80,000 saved up, but then it's about qualifying, because like even if you only have $80,000 saved up, your payments are going to be like crushing month to month, right? So getting qualified is a huge thing. I've had a few discussions with some mortgage agents and brokers about like the best way to get qualified. And usually for first-time home buyers, it's jumping through hoops, right? Maybe even going outside of like AAA lenders to get your it said AAA lenders, like it's AAA renters, but A lenders versus B lenders, like you have to go and find some way to do it. It's tricky. I mean, it always has been tricky for first-time home buyers. Like if you ask your parents, it wasn't like they just like walked into their first house. Like they had to strain themselves financially to get there. Yeah. But like, to your point, you have to now save up like quadruple the down payment that they had to save up. And like the wages that they're making aren't any, like it's considerably with accounting for inflation, it's not that much different than what your parents were making, right? So and having your conversation with your old man and or your old lady is like, you know, it's funny to think about their mindset when they were like at your age or maybe even a little bit younger, right? I'm 28. My parents were 24, 25 when they bought their first house. I was thinking about like me at 24 buying my first home.
Yeah. No chance. They like to bring up, oh, well, we had 18% interest rates back in the 80s and stuff. And it's like, yeah, but on an $80,000 home.
Honestly, though, the system is designed to make it like you have to strain to get there, right? But the strain is now like you can maybe buy the house, but like you said, you have to put 100,000, 200,000 to make it livable, right?
So you kind of specialize with first-time home buyers, right? So like
those are my people.
What do you, when somebody's getting kind of disheartened, they've seen a bunch of stuff, they're getting outbid, it's a little too much out of their budget. Where are you pointing to them for hope? Like where are they finding some?
It has to be a creative solution, right? The easiest thing is if you have a good relationship with your family, like you have to rely on like that's the reality. You have to rely on your parents and grandparents or family members for some sort of help. And that could be in the form of just like letting you live with them longer. A big thing that I'm noticing, well, and I'm a part of it, is you have to like live either with your parents or a family member to help yourself with rent. Or if you're not capable of doing that because of your family situation, or if you like strictly you just want to have your independence, like it's worth going to spend in Whitby where I live. It's like $1,800 to $2,400 a month for rent in a basement. Yeah. Right. So like you can
for like
do
a one bedroom.
I have friends that do that. Right. And it makes sense for them because they need to be out on their own. They're in relationships or in adult situations where they can't be living at home in their childhood bedroom and then commuting to their job as a doctor, right, or a lawyer, which is crazy to me. Again, like that you have a professional job and like a spouse with a professional job. And like it's still like maybe in a couple of years we can afford it. Right. So creatively, you have to think about like, is it going to be a couple of years of renting and saving X amount before we can actually afford to make the jump and purchase something of our own? You have to be looking at what compromises that you have to make. How far do you need to go in order to get to like, you know, to work, but also get a price that's reasonable? I think for a lot of people in the city making good money, coming as far as like, you know, Coburg and, you know, Trenton is something that they're actually considering because now it's like an hour and a half to 2 hour drive to get to work, but they get, you know, a couple $100,000 off the house listing price. And that makes a huge difference to them, right? But that's a compromise. You're just going to spend so much more time in the car every week.
Yeah, and that's the difference. Like, it works for people who work remotely. Like, we saw that in Prince Edward County. Like, tons of people came out. Hey, we got Starlink, which is great. We can work from here. But then that still driving to the city, you're 2+ hours. Yeah. And if you're doing that a couple times a week, especially if you got to be there, it's not exactly the lifestyle you want, especially when you're hitting traffic when you get into the city.
Yeah. So I deal with that every day, like sitting in traffic, and it is like is mind numbing.
This is why I left Durham. Like, it was growing exponentially then. I grew up in Bowmanville, right? So it was just a little farming town back when I was growing up there.
Bowmanville and Newcastle are like two places that I think remind me of like Whitby. Sort of like it used to be the border of the GTA was like
right.
And people in Toronto.
Now Durham is all part of the GTA.
Yes, it's all like really wide, and you have to actually get to the outside of like Newtonville for it to be like really now
Well,
you're in
people
the
even know where
boonies.
Newtonville is now, man. That's wild.
Yeah,
like,
but
I used to tell people, "Oh, I'm from Orono." Where's that? Nobody knows where Orono is. Like, especially from Toronto. People from Ottawa know where it is, but not from Toronto. But now everybody's
right
like,
up to
"Yeah,
115.
yeah, that's right."
Right? And the one, honestly, like being able to connect to a major, like the 407 now goes out to Orono, right? And being able to get across and travel is huge. But that goes back to the like how do young people get into a house? Like you have to basically bush sit and wait for your opportunity, but you have to be doing something actively while you are waiting, because like if it's saving, or you know what I mean, like the whole adage like of saving up and stop going to Tim Hortons or Starbucks and eating your avocado toast is a very like is super old mentality now. Like it's grown so exponentially that saving little amounts every day, it adds up maybe over the course of the year if you're planning on going on vacation, but like not if you are planning on making a huge financial step for your future. And the biggest thing that like we began talking about this because of the regulation changes that the government is making, which is supposed to make it easier, right? But those things don't address like the core of the problem, in my opinion, right? And
what do you see as the core problem? What is the
shortage? There's too many people living in too small of an area with too few houses, right? And we can't build the houses fast
Everybody
enough.
wants to live in Toronto.
You can like demolish the entire green belt. Like everyone's like, no, don't build in the green belt. Like you can build houses on every single thing. It's not going to make a difference for the amount of people that need housing and the amount of houses that can be built.
Well, and that's it. I think economics 101, right? It's supply demand. When you don't have enough supply and the demand is high, the prices go up. And our supply is not increasing at the same rate as our demand. I think we brought 1 million people into the country last year, including students, and we built. Was it under 250,000 houses in the country, across the country?
Yeah, in Ontario, I think it was less than 100,000 houses. Right,
that's wild to me.
I could be like, that could be nonsense. I would have to again like check actual numbers, but I believe it like over like the next, like they're saying by 2030 we're gonna have a 3 million house shortage.
Wow.
Right, if you think about like 3 million people, like just being able to go somewhere else to live, that's, you know, the population of the GTA, not including Toronto. So it it would make a huge difference if we can build houses faster. The only thing that's going to help with that is technology and labor, like bringing in more people to actually build houses. You can't like bring in international students who are going to be like not joining the like labor, like build like brick layers.
I'd argue as well though that there's a lot of red tape in the way of building.
100%.
And I think honestly, that's probably one of the biggest issues that we have. So I live on a rural 3-acre lot. And we have a water problem where we are. So we get it trucked in. But there's a whole slew of red tape for us even just to get a garage with a loft on it or something. Even though there's a lot of incentives, which is great. Like I think the federal government and the provincial government, correct me if I'm wrong, I've been putting out incentives, so tax breaks, some grants and stuff like that, which is wonderful. But if the municipality says no to me, then it doesn't really make a difference. So, I don't know how much policy is going to fix it from the federal side, but I see the problem more as the municipal.
It's like a chokehold because small municipalities don't want to lose like kind of what makes like it feels small, right? Because that happens in places in Whitby and, you know, Bowmanville and like
the county in Picton,
out here in different regions in Prince Edward County, and like, you know, people, especially people who've been living here a long time, do not like change. There's a good example like near where I live, a little bit north. If you're familiar where Brooklyn is.
I have an uncle in Brooklyn, actually.
Nice, so like north of Brooklyn is Ashburn, and Ashburn is a really nice like small community. It's like a lot of estate homes and a lot of like Whitby's wealthy people live there, right? And because Brooklyn is expanding so much, there's I think 70,000 people going to be moving in there in the next 10 years, right? And a lot of that is encroaching into Ashburn in the way of like transportation, in the way of like building like new infrastructure, and the people there do not want it. They do not. They have every chance they get to like delay.
Well, because they invested, they put all of their marbles into this town, and that's where they want to be, and they want that lifestyle.
So you can probably find that story in so many different like like small communities that are adjacent to bigger communities because there's just sprawl happening.
Right.
And they're saying, well, like it should just be like density, like built up, right? Or build like put as many, you can probably see it out here as well, right? If you have a small postage, like a stamp of land, then you're trying to get like as many houses, like townhomes into that as possible, right? And
which I'm all for, by the way.
Yeah.
Just do it with a bit of design. Do it with some character. Tim, one of my biggest pet peeves is when I see row houses that are just soulless.
It looks like a prison block.
They're soulless.
Yes.
And it's just like, no work was done here. This is clearly an efficiency thing, which I understand too.
Yes.
Running a business as a developer, you have to make efficiencies so you can make money at the end of the day. But man, can we get some architects up in here to do a bit of creative design?
Like seriously, I have had that thought as well, as like the sheer like blandness of some of these houses. I mean, you can drive past some places that you're like, oh, this was built in the 70s and it looks like it, right? And it's not really a tasteful design. And now people like, it's just there, and it's kind of an eyesore kind of thing. I know that some of these like townhomes are going to be like that 30 and 40 years from now. We're gonna be looking at like, who built that and why is it still here? Like, can we just flatten this whole thing and build like something nice, right? So yeah, 100%. I think like doing some tasteful stuff, but it's more than just how it looks from the curb, because I've been in so many, like I've taken my clients on showings, the first time home buyers in showings in these places. The design, the floor like plan is just not family oriented. Like, you wonder why people aren't like having families until later on. Is because even if they can afford to get into a home, it's like now we're just like stacked living on top of each other. Like, there's 7 rooms in this house and it's 7 stories, right? So I'm glad you brought up families, because I think the big ticket item this year is going to be multi-generational living. Oh yeah.
Hashtag multi-gen. I'm
yeah.
making it a thing. Okay. I'm going to make fetch happen.
You're very correct.
I think so. I mean, we see a lot of families coming out this way to Quinte, specifically immigrant families who come out, who have large families. And for a lot of immigrants who come to the country too, a lot of them are actually leaving because it's so unaffordable. Yeah. But a lot of them are just pooling their money as a family, larger family, to buy property. And I think that's, that's what most of the world actually does.
It's a strategy.
And that's it. It's a creative strategy to get housing, because like it's better than, being on the street. That's
Seriously,
for sure.
Or living in an apartment block with like there are some families that live like there's 4 people to a room, right? You're living like your family is in one room and your aunts and uncles and their family are in another room. It's crazy to me that's
here. I thought I was cramped sharing a room with my brother growing up.
Right? Yeah, the bunk beds.
Yeah.
It's a lot different for people these days. It's not necessarily where I think anybody wants it to go, but until we address like the actual problem, which is the shortage of houses being built,
right?
Like, you can't, and it's a red tape thing, like you said. If we make it easier, there's problems with that too, because the easier it is, the more developers can just say, okay, we'll just stick this here. It can get turned around in 2 years and we'll build it. But there's like very little thought going into the design or the floor layout of it. How people
there definitely has to be regulations still, right? I would never advocate for just a free for all, but
build your own.
We need to make a system that works, right? Where it's like, hey, we need infrastructure, we need housing, we have all these people. So how are we gonna get this pipe flowing, kind of thing?
So when the government's addressing things like, oh, now you can borrow an extra $30,000 from your RRSP and pay it back over a longer period, it's like, okay, but like I don't have that money, and like it doesn't matter because the houses are still unaffordable. I can't pay for it. Even with $60,000 out of my RRSP, I still can't afford the $4,000 or $5,000 a month it's going to take me to like carry this house.
Well, it's nuts. My first house, we put 12 grand down, which is like, looking back now, I'm like, holy, like at the time it was like we were working multiple jobs, both my wife and I, and it was crazy amount of money for us. And now we look at it and it's just like, I can't believe how hopeless some people might feel.
That's the maybe the lesson is that in like, how long ago was that?
So that would have been I got married in 2013. So we bought it in 2014, I believe. So how we did it, we lived in a drug den apartment. which we found out like the first week we moved in
because you started doing drugs.
Yeah, I was just high all the time. Suddenly, I was like, "How is this happening?" No, it was people kept knocking on our door at all hours of the night, and they're like, "Hey, is Steven here?" And I'm just like, "No."
Steven's a popular guy.
Yeah, apparently. So, and then even like when we tried to hook up internet, we couldn't get internet hooked up because there was like nefarious activity happening like on that line or whatever before. So it was just, but anyways, it was $550 a month for a single bedroom piece of crap apartment. Yeah. But that's how we saved money. You can't get that now. So again, I feel for people today.
But that's what I mean. So that's 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. And like 10 years from now, are we going to be saying the same thing about like the prices that we're like currently dealing
Hopefully
with?
not.
Well, like you can say that, but in 2014, you're probably like also saying like $500 a month in rent is like pushing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it's all a little relative, and
sure. But the hockey stick keeps going, right? So it's like, even from when our parents were our age, right? It's like, okay, the difference between income to cost of living, the percentage was so much smaller, or the ratio was so much closer together, and it just keeps getting exponential and growing and growing. So, I'm not an economist, so I'm not sure how to actually make it, but we can point to some of the problems at least and say, hey, we can fix some things like cutting red tape, getting more houses built, which is basically it.
Bottom line, I think everyone has to be a little bit more agreeable on the solution, because the people in those small towns who don't want the red tape being cut, like they have to understand, like, okay, yeah, it's nice, you have this nice estate property on an acre and your $2 million home and everything. That's great, but there's also 70,000 people moving in, right? Those people have to have somewhere to live, and they have like they don't necessarily have to choose here, but it's as expensive here as it is anywhere else.
Well,
they have to
look
compromise.
at it like this though, like from a municipality, from their perspective. Say if I was mayor,
if
I was mayor, one day, thanks,
Tim.
Thank you. I would try and understand that like the more people I have living in my municipality, the more housing I have, the more tax revenue I'm creating, which means I can build better infrastructure, which we can have better local services. Like that's, I don't know, am I wrong in thinking that's how it should work?
Have you considered a career in politics?
Oh, Tim. Many times. Many people have said.
And then the group chat comes up. And
Well, it's partly one reason I wouldn't get into politics is because I'd have to drag my family into the public domain, which I don't really have any desire to do. My wife isn't so keen on it, but I could see definitely some sort of supportive role.
Well, the whole point of having conversations like this is, like you said, is to kind of point out it's not, we aren't economists. I have a little bit of a background in economy from school, but it's not like, we're not policymakers, but the more we get talking, that's a huge issue across the board, is that we don't actually pay attention enough. And if we do pay attention, we don't really make our voices heard.
Right.
So, like you say, you're not involved because you don't want to drag yourself into the public light. All of us can get involved better.
Right.
I'm super guilty of like doing my research on who to vote for, you kind of have an idea-ish from what you hear, but then like, okay, I got to go vote in like a couple hours. Like, let's scroll through here and like see everyone's policy just to make sure I'm making the right call. But like just being more involved in the actual greater decision making, all of it, like that's I think that's like the real core of the problem, is just like a lack of attention.
And that's it. And not even like I think attention in the wrong place too, because I think we put so much attention to the federal and the provincial governments and say, oh, what's going on there? They're important, obviously, and they affect us, but I think municipally it affects us the most. Yeah. And honestly, if I can say this, I think municipal politics is probably the most corrupt level of politics because of the lack of accountability. They don't have, not every municipality streams their meetings. A lot do nowadays, but it's not being put on the news. You don't have journalists
coverage
ramming down their throats and stuff like that. So it's a very different thing. They're a lot smaller. So like I don't know. We could all be more involved. I think even just going to town hall meetings, which is difficult to do, but just being aware and advocating and actually talking to your local representatives.
To make it more exciting somehow.
Yeah,
you gotta like bring the
make politics more exciting.
Bring the circus in and then have the town hall meeting.
No, the circus is down south of the border right now. So
yes,
well, we won't get into that in this one. Tim.
We don't want to make that like the excitement. Like that's the real. the real deal.
But speaking of excitement, I want to switch gears just a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the pool business.
The business. So
how did you get into that? How did that start?
So it's actually kind of like it's so related in such a weird way to the real estate part of my life. And when I'm thinking about like the reason why like I want to share some of this, like I said, I'm very reluctant to put my opinions and thoughts on social media, not necessarily from like a fear of being judged or people disagreeing with me, but more so like I think that there's already a really crowded space for real estate and in social media in general. With that being said, I've had a change of mindset. Like I think that I do have like a creative way that is more than just surface level of looking at business. In the real estate industry, I've noticed a lot of like, if you're going after something, if you are like putting your fear aside for a little bit, then you have to kind of like come up with a creative solution to generate leads and to talk to more people. And while I was doing that, I was realizing that like I have to make something work in between like selling my first few homes to get the bills paid, right?
Right.
So everyone has a side hustle, and I was doing like pool work for people that I'd already been doing work for a while. And that was like a really good way of kind of like getting some cash on the side. And it came to the point where I was like, this is a possibility for a proper business if I choose to put more effort into it. So after about a year of doing real estate and then like kind of doing, you know, some pool work on the side, I decided to register the pool business as a proper business. And like actually to go back a little further than that, the pool work that I was doing was less doing like heavy service stuff. Like everyone needs a pool open and everyone needs a pool closed, but I was doing pool school. So
Pool school. What's pool school?
Pool school is teaching pool owners how to use their pool properly. Like I mentioned that I'd worked for a pool builder for a while, and one of the things that I noticed working for him, like I was a landscaper and then I was doing like more technical stuff. And the technical stuff actually was really interesting to me, but it didn't seem like it was very interesting to the rest of the people working in that company or across many companies in the pool industry. No one really, like if you're building a pool, that's where the money is. But like teaching people how to use the pool after you're done building it was completely skipped over, especially as things got busy in COVID. Like everyone's putting a pool in the ground. I'm not sure if it was the same way out here.
Yeah,
like
no, I bought a hot tub, man. I was in that boat, and I still have no idea how to work my hot tub properly. I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, like for the most part, that's how pool ownership is, right? Like you have this thing in your backyard, especially if you built one over COVID because like it was like pretty cheap to finance to do it. So like everybody, you guys are on the 401 out here, so you probably see the pools going past, right? Do you ever see that on the highway?
There's a few pool
there's
companies
Dolphin
in there
and Latham are out here.
Yeah,
right. So like everyone had a pool put in. And then all these builders were so busy doing the building that they just completely buggered off to the next backyard for most of them. And the people were like, I don't know how to use this. So I kind of made like a little bit of a niche in like teaching those customers how to do it. And I was doing it for that company and kind of like coming up with a actual like pool school course. And I was workshopping it while getting paid to do it by that company. Nice. As like sort of like a subcontractor. Right. And then as I got more familiar with like the hustle of real estate, like the real estate mindset, like going to figure out like, you know, who's in this neighborhood is moving, then it became like, okay, well, who in this neighborhood has a pool? And going further than that, and this is where the creative part of it really lies, is like, I don't want to go knock on every door that has a pool. You can see from space, you can go on GPS and see, okay, there's like 50 pools in this neighborhood. But like I can spend like 3 hours knocking on doors to find like the 2 people that are like, okay, yeah, I do need a pool guy. Or I can look and see who moved into a house that's got a pool.
Interesting.
Right?
There's the connection.
The one hand in some way feeds the other. And it's public information, right? Like you can go online and just look on realtor.ca or Zillow or whatever to see like, okay, this house just sold and it's got a pool in the backyard and those people are moving in. There's a very good chance that they have no idea what's back there, right? So I go knock on the door after they close And 9 times out of 10, they're like, well, thanks for showing up right now because we needed you.
Right.
So that is sort of how I've tied my real estate, like the background that I've started to form in real estate, into like using it to propel another business. And I used the word real estate adjacent earlier. I think that anybody, including your business, who is adjacent to real estate, especially while real estate is doing well, as it is right now, has like a world of opportunity.
Right.
There's money to be made in doing services that are around real estate. Home inspectors do really well.
They didn't for those 2 years during COVID because people, not just that, people were no conditions, right? Which is bananas to me.
So
it's
so scary.
Like I grew up in a real estate investment family,
right?
So like my dad bought places and leveraged those to buy other places. Then he eventually bought his business and everything through real estate. But he taught us how to put a deal forward and everything. It's like you would never put in an offer without a condition of finance or inspection,
right?
Like, because you just don't know what you're going to get, especially when you haven't even you don't even have a condition of proper showings after the deal. So it was bananas to me. So we know a few home inspection companies that are kind of twiddling their thumbs a little bit, which was crazy because like almost in my opinion, like a home inspection should be mandatory. But anyways, now we're getting off topic. But
it's all to be honest, it's all part of the topic because home inspectors actually is like I met a home inspector at a brokerage lunch. Like he was doing a lunch and learn about what you should look for while you're in like a house, and he was talking about the foundation, he was talking about the roof and the attic and the walls, all this stuff. I said, what if there's a pool in the backyard? And he goes, yeah, we don't touch those. I'm like, well, why not? And he goes, well, it's just like outside of like what the scope of work is usually for home inspections, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, every now and then, like they'll say like, okay, like, like if the pool has an obvious problem, then like the real estate agent has to account for that in the agreement of purchase and sale. And I was like kind of blown away by that because I know, like I've seen how wrong pool, like any pool service, pool building, all that stuff, I know how bad it gets. Good. I know how bad, like not necessarily all builders are bad, but like the mistakes that can happen and the things that like if you have a leak in your pool or if you have like a liner that needs replacing, people don't know. The home inspectors don't know.
Here's a question with pools. I've heard the answers both ways. Does a pool, like a nice pool, does it add value to the price of a house or does it take away? And I've heard both answers, so I don't know.
So both answers are correct, but it depends on the buyer, right? And if you're trying to account for it as a seller, the best way to like look at your pool is and anything in your house really is the right buyer going to come along and really enjoy this? Right. And if that person comes into the house and it's the right home, but the pool in the backyard and it's iffy, right? They're not going to really look at the pool as like taking away from the home. Or some people are out there looking for a house with a pool. I have clients that like they look at the house because it has a pool. And to answer that question, you basically have to steer into the skid. Like the people that are going to look at the home and don't want a house, the people that are going to look at the house but they don't want a pool, those people aren't your buyers, right? And if the people are looking for a pool and the house like it fits all the criteria that they're looking for as well, then it's okay for you, right? So if you're
what about the bank? Does the bank see it as an added value to the house or do they see it as a liability?
To be honest, I don't think that the bank really like uses the pool as part of the valuation of the house. And that's because it can like even a nice pool can have like serious issues, and they're like I think from an insurance standpoint that would be a more interesting question that, to be honest, like I would ask my insurance agent like if having a pool in the background is a problem or if it's going to make it more expensive. I have a really good anecdote of a home in Whitby that I did my trick. I knew that they had moved in, and actually my brother-in-law lives across the street from this house, and we watched it getting built. It's a custom home, and it's like a magnificent, extravagant house that doesn't really fit in the neighborhood. And the people built it, and then I think they ran out of money at some point while they were building it. So we saw them out there doing the work themselves, and then they sold it. It was up for sale, and it sold for like quite a bit of money. Right, like millions of dollars in like a suburb of Whitby. So when it when they moved, I knew that there was a pool back there. I went and knocked, and the guy came out. He's like, "Yeah, this is great. Like, sure, like I'll hire you to do the services. Come and open the pool." And I get there, and the pool is in ruin.
Oh no.
Yeah, like probably $25,000 worth of damage.
Oof.
Easily. It could be more. It could be more. We're still like, this is more than a year later, and I'm still helping them get swimming, right? And like I was in there like pulling bricks out of the liner at the deep end. There's 18 holes that had to be fixed. The lights were cut out. It wasn't winterized. There's leaking, all this stuff, but in like a $3 or $4 million home, right? Wow. And you know what I mean? Those people moved in. They had a house and like a home inspection done, but they didn't catch like it was probably closer to $30,000 worth of damage that's back there. They don't know about it until I show up and get to tell them. But like at least I'm sort of advocating for them because I know the situation that they're in. As part of my business is trying to educate people about what can go wrong. Mm-hmm. Pool school is sort of like to help owners figure out what to do with their pool when it's running properly. But I've discovered there's this whole like another layer of it is like when things are starting to go wrong, if you have leaks, how to find them, like how to detect when, like even just to know that there is something wrong, right? If they moved in the summer and they saw the pool running, then they might have had an idea, but they moved in February.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
so
no idea.
And
they bought it thinking that the pool's all good to go.
Yeah,
We're excited for the summer.
But the same thing, they were looking at the house. Like the house was like the main draw. It's extravagant on the inside. And when you get up close, like there's a couple of things, but like, and then you get in the backyard, and as a pool installer, I look at it and go, that's not done right. That's not correct. Why is this done this way? Mm-hmm. But they don't see that. They see, it's a body of water that I get to jump in. Right. And then when they go to open it and they can't, then we have an issue. Right. So across the board, there's a ton of like issues, and it doesn't necessarily have to just be pools. It can extend to like the entire enclosure. I've seen like indoor pools. I've seen pools that go from inside to outside. There's all different manner of like constructing pools, and all of them have some direct relation to the house and the real estate side of things. It's a really cool like connection of those two worlds that I didn't know existed. All of that to say, like, if you don't have like sort of like an eye to spot where the opportunity is when you're mixing one world with another world, then you know what I mean? Maybe it eventually will just like land in your lap, but like looking at it critically will like help, I guess, push you along. That's a huge lesson that I learned early on in business is like, okay, I like this. I have a passion for this, but like I also do this to make money. Is there a way that these two worlds can sort of like combine? Normally, I think if you're creative enough, you can find a way. So unless it's like you,
hey man, you're preaching to the choir here, dude.
I know that you're in the same boat.
I was able to find it in one business where I took my background in construction and broadcast. So it's like, real estate and architecture, photography, right? That just kind of meshes those two perfectly. And I totally get what you mean, man. Because as soon as I think I was like a year and a bit into the business, and I said to my wife, I was like, I feel like this is the thing. This is what I'm connected. I'm firing on all cylinders here. And I think this is what I'm meant to do in a way, or right now, this is what I'm meant to do. Just combining all those passions and talents together. Exactly. And here it is. Yeah.
And I mean, it doesn't always necessarily click the same way. There's probably not like a huge jump between like, pools and real estate. Like they are like obviously connected in some ways. Like anybody who has bought a pool and has a problem with it, right? Same way for you, broadcasting is on like, you're putting yourself out there. Like you are like, part of the package, and the same with real estate media. When I first like met you, I definitely like was drawn by the personality that came into the room. And like, that is, I think, what makes you successful. Right. I think when I go into a backyard, a really, really interesting thing happens. When I first started doing those pool schools, a lot of the times I would be doing them on the way home from a showing or something like that. There's one lady who I remember like the year previous, I helped build her pool, and I was like dressed like a nasty construction worker. Right. Like just minus the cigarette smoke because I don't smoke, but like everything else, like she was like, this guy just got out of jail. Yeah. Right. And she treated me like that. She was out there, like she wasn't very nice. And when they told me the next year, they're like, hey, can you go teach her how to use it? I was like, no. Yeah. No, I don't want to do that. But then I showed up, but I was wearing like my real estate clothes. like I just come from a showing, I was dressed up, and she's like, you're here to teach me how to use my pool? I'm like, yeah, let's go in the backyard. Completely different experience. And it's not just her. Like everywhere I go, if I'm dressed up like a real estate agent while doing pools, it's a completely different experience.
Right.
But the really cool thing is when I'm doing real estate and I'm dressed like a pool guy, I have the same thing happen. Like if I go door knocking and I'm dressed up in a suit, knock on the door, hey, I just wanted you to know that your neighbors have listed their house. Like, do you not want to know what yours is worth?
Right.
And they're like, no, get off my lawn.
Yeah.
Right. If I go dressed like a pool guy, like backwards hat, like kind of sweaty, smelling a little bit, I knock on the door and they're like, hey, what's up? I'm like, hey, I just, finished up, like doing your neighbor's pool. But like, I noticed that like, you had your house on the market a few years back and like, you never moved. What's going on? And they're like, oh, they'll actually like talk to you because there's this incongruency.
Right.
And, I think that like it kind of takes people by surprise a little bit. It's not
You've disrupted their thought pattern.
The disruption
right?
is huge. So I think that's another really cool thing I discovered by accident almost. And now I try and use it as much as possible.
Right.
I don't dress up. If I go door knocking, I do not dress up. Right. And it makes a huge difference face value because people like the moment you open the door, they're like, you're either a Jehovah's Witness dressed like that or like you're a politician or you're like
you want something
or you're
from
you're a real estate
they're
agent.
expecting it's like someone's trying to sell me something at the door.
Exactly. What like the moment that you take that like I'm trying to sell you something away from the equation, like they're ready to talk to you.
Right.
I love just finding people on the street. Like if I don't have to knock on the door, I'll go door knocking when it's like not like if people are coming home from work or like they're picking their kids up from school, right? And like I just catch them in their driveway. Those are the conversations that are usually like they go the furthest because people are like kind of comfortable. They see you come in. They're not just like opening the door, like peering out at you. Right. So it's a cool little tidbit for salespeople in general.
Well, I think how you present yourself is super important, right? People immediately will make a judgment based off what you're wearing. The context involved too, but it's fascinating that you kind of get that opposite.
It's completely
kind of
opposite.
approach from it. That's amazing. Right. So what you're saying, Tim, is I need to show up to shoots dressed like a bum,
right?
And I'll do better. Is it? No.
Well, have you ever seen like at a gas station someone pulls up in like a Lamborghini or some like nice car, like, and then they get out, they look like the Adam Sandler effect.
Right. Yeah.
They're dressed in their sweats or something. You're like, what the heck? Like it's incongruency, and then you notice that. But if they got out of the car like dressed in a suit, you'd be like, what a douche.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
But the sweatpants, like the guy getting out of his Ferrari in sweatpants, you go,
what's this guy about?
That's mysterious.
Yeah.
What's going on here, right? So when I show up like a pool guy knocking on your door for a real estate agent or like for a real estate reason, people are way more willing to talk to you because they see you as like a person. And honestly, even when I tell people, like the first couple of like interactions I had when I was like, but people ask you, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I'm a real estate agent. I have to admit it like I'm a drug addict or something. Like, hi, my name's Tim and I'm a real estate agent. Hi, Tim. Like they kind of got it took me a while to start going like, I'm involved with real estate.
Right.
Like I don't have to like admit to you that I'm a real estate agent or a salesperson, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually like I'm a real estate agent. It's kind of exciting. Like I do a bunch of different stuff, to be honest, and like people will like kind of relax when they're not like, I'm not selling my home. Man. Don't ask me. Yeah. I'm not selling.
Well, I think that's partly because it's just like the snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
Real estate agents have been painted with a negative brush, and for good reason. For some, like there's been a lot of bad agents out there who've acted badly and who do the whole snake oil thing, and they've kind of tarnished the industry for a lot of people. But yeah, I love that you're kind of disrupting that thought pattern, and that's a great way to do that.
It's completely by accident that I figured out that was like sort of working in my advantage. It does. I don't know if it would work in every situation. Like you said, like if you show up to like a highbrow meeting dressed like an idiot, then you know what I mean. You can ask Daryl about like, you know, it's branding photo shoot day. You probably shouldn't show up in your sweats.
Yeah, exactly.
But that being said, like even today we're doing our photo shoot like for like so I can use those on my business cards. I'm like, is this really the image that I want people to look at? Right. Like for a while, is it like so like I could have dressed in a few different ways, but like I'm thinking about how people perceive me. It's a very interesting thing. Like I said, I've never really been huge into posting on social media or having like publicly like having an image per se. So part of being in real estate and part of being like, you know, in people's faces is like, how are you perceiving me? I still don't have an answer for that. I think maybe. Well,
you can't control how people perceive you, but you can do a lot of work to help suggest them into the right direction. Right. So, a lot of times when I do interviews with people, like not like a podcast, but like a sit down, something we're filming, for like a corporate video. What I tell people is like, what's on camera isn't actually you. What you're putting forward is a persona. This is a character that you get to step into, and this is where you get to pack all the things that you want to show into that image. So it's not all of yourself, and this is actually how I get people away from the kind of the camera stage fright. Is because they're like, oh, all the cameras are on me. It's like, it's not on you. It's on this character that you're just inputting the pieces of information that you want to share. So it's you, but it's not. So it's it's a little mind trick just to kind of get around it. But that's really what it is. It's like, even like here during the podcast, I have my on-camera persona. I want to be as genuine as possible to who I actually am.
I honestly, I thought I would come in here and start talking.
That's right.
So super deep. Like this is how my voice really is, actually.
but that's it, right? You want to be as genuine to who you are, but you don't need to show all of yourself, right? Just the parts that really that you want people to know or hear the information. So
that's a huge thing. I definitely believe that personality on things like Instagram and social media in general that's sort of getting lost. I see a lot of trends like that. They're very like quick. You know, here's like a small B-roll, and then like it's all, everything that you want is in the caption. Like it's all educational stuff in the caption, which I like that the direction it's going is information instead of entertainment. But I'm feeling like a lot of the times that your personality gets lost in that. I'm seeing like the back of your head while you're washing dishes or something like that.
Well, it can come across as disingenuous too, right? Because if you're jumping on a trend or you're doing the lip sync, it's really nothing. You're not contributing any information about yourself, and that's what people. Well, it's called social media, and people connect with people.
Oh shit!
Thank my wife Anne for that one. She's a social media manager, so she uses that line all the time. But that's what it is. It's like you need to connect with people, and you don't connect with people by just doing a funky dance on Instagram, though that may be part of it. It
does work sometimes.
That may be part of it.
It does. I really like. I used to roll my eyes a lot. I didn't mean to cut you off, but like I roll my eyes sometimes. That like there's this one agent that I see all the time, and she's like, I think she's in the States somewhere, but she's always like doing the dance and has the same big smile, and I'm like, oh, this hurts me every time I see you pop up. But then I look and she's got like so many followers, and I'm sure she does a lot of business off of it. And I'm like, well, whatever. Even if she has like no like completely different personality in person, like this is obviously working for her. But then like it's not.
Is it working for her?
Is it genuine? I don't know.
And that's it. And does that translate into actual business? Because you can have all the followers in the world on Instagram, which is great. But if that doesn't translate into actual business, then it's just vanity metrics, right? So I think what's really important is when people can hear your voice, see the whites of your eyes. There's an element of trust that's happening. It's the digital handshake, as I say. And then when you kind of create your content out from there, you're just giving a little bit more information. You're offering free information to people, so you're giving something to somebody without expecting anything in return, maybe a follow. So then you're building trust with them, so then you are the expert in whatever you have to say, and then you can start building relationships that way. So that's what we're doing here. So I wanted to ask you, so you do the education part with the pools, hence the pool professor. And you do openings as well. What's the extent of your services you do?
So I like to it's a service company, right? So I'm trying to do as much like educating about services that are common within like the pool industry industry that people overpay for. So openings and closings are kind of like the big thing that people don't think that they can do themselves. And the really interesting thing is that if you are there to help guide them through the process, then they will try it for themselves. And even if they're calling me, asking me like questions while they're doing it, then that's okay. I would prefer that than you calling someone and paying like $500-600 in some cases for the service. And like, this is a sidebar, but in general, like the service is usually pretty bad in the pool industry as a whole, right? The people don't really get what they expect out of the money that they're paying for it. It's a lot of money. I'm doing some homes like as a subcontractor right now in nice, like really nice areas of Etobicoke and Mississauga. And like, they're like, it's like ridiculous homes. And then the sort of like mantra is go start up the pool and leave and spend as little time there as possible. And I'm like, well, like the pool is nasty. Like it needs some love. Right. And I have 2 hours supposedly here to do it. Right. But like, you know, I have to, like, I would like that pool to look really nice. Right. But it's not my client. It's not my, like, it's not my contract. Right. But when it is my client and it is my own contract, I want those people not to be my client next year. Does that make sense? Like it's like shooting yourself in the foot in a sense. Like I want you to be able to do it for yourself.
Right.
But that.
Do you find that like once they know they'll do it themselves, or do you find that some will be like, you know what, I just don't want to do it?
Completely depends on the person. Yeah. And to be honest, like I want to pander to as many people as possible, but the whole thing is like sort of empowerment so that you get to make the decision instead of just having to rely on like someone else to do it. Right. Because most of the time, you can like sort of DIY or troubleshoot some stuff if you have enough information. And sometimes that information comes online where it's either not accurate information or there's too much information. You don't really know which way to go. So asking someone or having someone to kind of guide you through the process is big for most new pool owners. Even some people who've been doing it forever, like kind of like, I need to know if I'm doing this the right way. People who are like, pretty like, you know, handy or like they're astute when it comes to sort of like processes, those people will try it for themselves, and they usually have questions while they're doing it. But then like, you know what I mean? I have a couple people that pay me just to watch, right? Hey, you're a watcher. You can come here and
what kind of watchers are these, Tim? Mr. Pool Boy Tim.
I know, right?
What are you wearing when you do these?
I show up in my
openings.
My banana hammock. No, like I pull the lawn chair out and just say, "Hey, you're missing a step. What is the step?" And you know, like it's kind of like you know, just any sort of teaching. Yeah. I'm not a teacher necessarily by trade. I don't have any like teaching experience professionally. But the more I do it, I think the better I get at like sort of following like not a script, but like a structure to pool school. I've done hundreds of them. And so I know pretty much right off the bat whether or not someone is going to get it, or if they're just listening so that they can say that they did it and then they're going to hire me back anyways. But that's fine. Yeah. Like you at least like attempted, right? So it panders to a lot of different people. Openings and closings are the sort of big ones that people are afraid to do themselves. Weekly things like how to keep up on your water chemistry, or, you know, if there's a problem, like I have to fill up my pool every day. Is that normal? Or like my heater won't turn on.
Probably not normal.
Right?
Yeah.
Like little questions that always come up.
Right.
So like instead of charging $150 for a service call, I'll charge you $150 to show up and do a pool school. Right. And then you get to like call me when you have an issue. The thing is that like most of these people end up, you have a good relationship with them, right? Yeah. Especially if they're like very like, you know, like appreciative of the service and they understand that I'm trying to go out of my way to help them. They'll be like in return, like sending me more of their people as referrals. And then the more of those people that are in my network, the more of those people I'll know when they go to move, right? So It kind of feeds the left hand, feeds the right hand. And it's a related industry. Both of my sort of pet projects, depending on the time of the year, and they are sort of related cyclically as well. Like seasonally, is super busy in May for pool openings, super busy in May for real estate. So I have to that's something I'm learning is time management.
And do you have guys working for you for that, or is it just you?
Yeah. So I last year it was all me by myself until the end of the year. Someone that I trained actually at the previous job that I was working for, the pool builder, I had trained, his name's Brandon, and he's very astute when it came to like all the technical stuff, because he started in construction as well, and then they moved him to start doing the service stuff. And so I was familiar with his work ethic and how he picked up on things. And we spent a lot of time in the car driving around talking about business. And he has like a business background as well. So Brandon and I had talked about a lot of the stuff that I am now going out to do. And Brandon and I were talking last year about how he was kind of like thinking about making the jump for himself as well. Well, it makes sense that we are both in the same orbit right now. Come on board, we'll do this together. So he's coming on as a partner. And like, I'd like to think of it as like, it is a partnership, right? Because he's not an employee and any more than I'm an employee. We're both doing the grunt work, but we're like owners rather than employees.
Right.
And that's the whole point of it. So yeah. And it's doing really well. So picking up contracts.
Nice.
You got to breathe. Yeah.
And do you do just residential, or are you doing any commercial or public pools?
There are some commercial pools that like we come across, and it's usually sent our way as a subcontract, right? But it's definitely something that we are looking to get into more, because it's usually year round, and doing stuff in the winter is usually like the first question. Oh, you're a pool guy, so what do you do in January? Other than planning, we want to be able to like have contracts that are year round. So commercial pools are an interesting thing. I look at the pool industry as like so many different streams of revenue.
Streams. Water related.
Yeah, you threw me right in the deep end on that one. Yeah.
I got a license for those jokes. I'm a father of two, Tim.
That's right. Yeah. You're showing your dad moments. Yeah. I have this whole image in my head of like the different streams of revenue that you can do just surrounding pools, in the same way that like real estate has investing and like commercial and residential and all different ones. So for pools, like it could be building pools, it could be servicing pools, it can be like direct, like retail. You can have a pool store if you want to, right? But all of those have their own little branches. Like building pools could be like building new ones, fixing old ones, like consulting. I work with a couple of home builders, right? Again, another cross of real estate and pool building is when home builders reach out to me and say, hey, I'm building a home. It's a spec home, but the people that are thinking about moving in wants a big pool in the background. Like what do you suggest they do, right? This is their budget, and how much, where should we go? And depending on the size of the project, I might take it on myself, or I refer it to any of the number of builders that I know are reputable in the area. And that's sort of like a consulting thing. Nice. You get a double end, like the builders pay you, the home builders pay you. Right. And that's like, you're just there as like, almost like a consultant, pool consulting.
Yeah.
Right. So
what's the craziest kind of like pool boy Tim story that you have, that like you showed up in your banana hammock and you're cleaning the pool?
There have never been like any of those moments that you see in the adult films, right? That's definitely an industry stereotype, but
so don't portray all pool boys like this, okay? They're not pieces of meat. Calm down.
We're people. We have feelings. All right. No, but I honestly think that some of the pools, like the builds that I see, it's the most exciting thing. Like you walk into a backyard, you have never been there before. And I've been into some like really far places. I've been to like Owen Sound to look at pools, and it's like this massive indoor pool that's going in with an infinity edge, and it's in an enclosure, but it feels like it's outside because it's all windows.
That's crazy.
And it's looking over the lake, and it's like half built. There's something about things that are half built to me where I'm like really excited about it when I walk into a project that's like in the process, and you know you're going to go back there to start the thing up in a couple months, and it's going to be sick. Right. So that's the crazy, like the crazy pools, I think is like the really cool part.
Well, actually, one of my favorite people to follow are like these pool builders down in Florida.
Yeah.
Like they do these crazy big pools. And also in Florida, you can just
you can do that.
Do anything because you don't have frost here down there, so which is nice.
Right.
What's like the biggest mess you've come into and where you're like, what the heck happened?
So this is actually something I want to ask you about, is maybe like starting to document, but like over the past year, I've come across a lot of pools that need help like fixing it, and those come in various degrees. And I did one last year where we were like certain that there was going to be a body in the pool. It was like the homeowner had moved in 4 years ago, hadn't touched the pool since. It had just been sitting in the backyard. You imagine 4 years. And he said that the previous owner had also not touched it in at least 4 years. So it could have been longer, right? So that's 8 years minimum since the last time the water had been moving, touched. It was essentially a swamp, right? With the liner hanging off, the safety cover hanging in the pool. I have some great shots of it actually, but in the future I want to document these things, because like the process of getting it clean and then like building it back up, putting a new liner in, doing the stone, like the before and after pictures are really, really cool. I think it would be excellent to sort of document it, like almost like maybe not Trailer Park Boys, but like, you know, someone following you around with the camera, like an HGTV special, like Pool Rescue, if you will. So, you know, pitching that out there to anybody who wants to use ChatGPT to give me like a script. But that I think is maybe the next like sort of revenue stream, is going into people's backyards. Often they don't have the money for it. So if there's some way to sort of like help finance it for them to make it less expensive, to save their backyard. Like the problem is, like, especially if you're planning on selling the home, which in this particular situation, the guy might sell the home, and that's why he's like, I don't really want to spend all this money back here. Is it even worth like fixing this pool to save the value of the home? Right. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, like if you put like a few, you know, like there's going to be thousands of dollars here, but I'm, as a buyer, not going to buy this home with this liability in the backyard. That's obvious. Right. So maybe like getting something in the future where we help people to fix the pools. There's money in it involved for both sides. There's benefit to both sides. I can see where that goes. And it's also like, I have a natural desire. I want to help these people and do it as cheaply as possible. Sometimes at my own detriment, but the bottom line is like the messes are really cool. It's like a dirty job. It's Mike Rowe. Is dirty jobs, right? You got to get in the pool with your hip waders. That pool, I was pulling turtles, salamanders. There, I went to go through the last bit of the tarp. There was like 20 frogs in there. I was like throwing them out of the pool like grenades, because you can't walk up the trying to catch these things. It's so it really, like, I get excited. Can you tell? No, it's awesome, man. I'm excited. I'm excited too to talk a bit more about kind of the future of that. Documenting. Maybe we'll do that over lunch. But 100%. I think that's probably a good place to stop, Tim. Well, tell the people where they can find you and how to get hold of you. Right now we're trying to build up the real estate and the pool business. So real estate is Tim Bumstead. It's at Bumstead_real estate, and the pools is the Pool Professors _GTA, and we're gonna have some really cool pool shots and hopefully some real estate shots coming up. We have a couple things in the pipeline, so really excited to work with you again, buddy. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, Tim. This is great. Appreciate it. All right, man. That's sweet. It. Cool. That was awesome, dude. Yeah, sweet.